Since 1989, Canada's first televised motorcycle magazine has been covering everything on two wheels. We've sampled new motorcycles from around the globe, toured North America from coast to coast, and interviewed some of the most interesting people on two wheels. So get set to keep your right hand cranked as Toyota Truck presents Motorcycle Experience. Hello and welcome to Motorcycle Experience, the voice of motorcyclists everywhere. I'm Dave Hatch, and this week we're coming to you from the Prince Edward Yacht Club in Picton, Ontario. And as you can see, things are still pretty quiet around here. As for our show this week though, it's rockin'. Also this week, we'll bring you another entry from our BMW Motorrad Ultimate Riding Tour Diary, captured in sunny Newfoundland. Last week, we shared a plate of fresh-caught flounder with the friendly crew of the Lady Ella in Somerville. This week, we're charging our batteries in Clarenville. And speaking of ultimate rides, with the score now 2-1 for Brian Hudgen in our 6-part Ultimate Challenge series, today we'll see if he can change a tire out in the woods in under 10 minutes. Shall we say flat? Plus, later on, Aliki Carrion will continue her Learning Curve series with a look at the Honda CBR 125 Challenge, while our roving reporter Paul Connert will introduce us to another faithful viewer. But first, we start the show with our Ride of the Week, Suzuki's GSXR750. When it comes to sport bikes, if I had to name one motorcycle that can be credited with best emulating the old NASCAR adage, race on Sunday and sell on Monday, it would have to be the Suzuki GSXR750. First launched back in 1985, the original oil-cooled aluminum alloy frame Gixxer certainly set off a racetrack-ready explosion that's been burning ever since. Fast forward some 30-odd years to behold the newest, and by my count, the 28th version of this now liquid-cooled, fuel-injected, race-ready weapon. Today, the GSXR 750's fuel-injected engine sports selectable drive modes. Then there's the sweet Showa big piston fork, with its electronically controlled steering damper. And the monster monoblock Brembo brakes. Heck, this fella even has a titanium muffler. All the very latest high-tech goodies stuffed into one package. The same formula that set the industry on its ear back in 1985. So how does the latest GSXR 750 work out in the real world? Well, here now is this week's guest road tester, Canada's preeminent road racing journalist, Colin Fraser.
I have to say I'm of a certain era, and I'm sure you are too. When somebody
don't make us seem older than we have to seem, Dave.
No, but when somebody says to me Suzuki, I immediately think GSXR. I mean, this brand really, this model has really defined to me Suzuki.
The GSXR was a high water mark beyond any measure in the mid-'80s and continues to drive the market and is a bike that's synonymous with performance.
Now back then you knew you could buy the bike and just take it to the racetrack and practically, take the plates off, go racing. It was that simple.
That's true, but the reality, if you wanted to do well, you certainly would struggle with some of the issues, particularly suspension-wise, and there were a lot of little things that you probably need to do. And to jump right over to this 2011 GSXR 750, what's amazing is you could literally ride this straight onto the racetrack. You could ride onto the pit lane, around the corner, wave to the flagman, not change anything, and start riding on the racetrack, and the experience would be fine. Like, that's how far we've come, that this bike is not pretty much track ready, it is completely track ready.
Right. So tell me about track ready, that motor. What's it like when you fire it up for you?
Well, first of all, The bikes don't look as different from year to year as they used to, but this bike is significantly revised, and in this market, with money the way it is, it's unusual to see bikes heavily redeveloped. This bike is, and of course what happens is things just keep getting more compact, better center of gravity, makes the bike easier to handle, and God really is in the details in a modern sport bike. This bike has a lot of performance, but what's really impressive is how accessible the performance is, not just the engine performance, and it's got lots of power even though it's only a 750, but everything to do with the chassis, the balance of the motorcycle, but for me more than anything, the throttle response. The fuel injection of this bike is so precise, it feels like somebody spent a lot of money with some computer work on the dyno, and it's just right out of the test fleet. It's just a regular street bike, anybody can buy it and it'll run like that.
Amazing. And I guess the other thing they're quite proud of this year is the stopping power. Did you like the Brembo edition?
You know, you can't really try Brembos on the street. That's how powerful they are. You know, we have the best fork you can get. We have the radial mount, full-blown Brembos, not look like Brembos, really are Brembos. Radial mount master, everything's adjustable, very, very precise and very track ready. And if you have experienced true performance in terms of suspension and braking, this is a bike that can give you all of that. And again, it's not close to racetrack spec, it is racetrack spec.
It is, though, street legal. It has a plate on the back. So therefore you get things like mirrors and switchgear. What's all that like for you? Were you paying attention to those things?
Oh yeah, and you know, that's the kind of thing where we've seen a lot of improvement, because as you mentioned, it used to be you took it to the track, you took a lot of stuff off and you went racing, and now a lot of these little odds and ends type pieces are actually very nicely turned out. You have a couple of modes you can put it on, so you have a sort of a take it easy in the rain mode and a full performance mode. Everything in terms of the operation, the controls, the engagement of the clutch, but particularly the throttle. The linear behavior of that bike, you know, what you're looking for in a performance bike if you have some training. It is so nice and smooth and picks itself up so well on the throttle. Very predictable, very accurate that way, and that's something that up until a few years ago you really had to spend a lot of money to achieve.
Definitely when they came to market with these bikes in the mid-'80s, on into the 90s, there were some rough edges. You know, you really felt like there was a race bike there and it was a tool. And then they've sort of got a little better in the fit and finish. What do you think of the finish now?
I think it's well in line with the modern sport bike, and they have come, all of them, a huge distance in terms of the quality. I personally really like the combination of materials. Sounds like we're talking about the inside of a sports car, but you know, we have a few different types of panels, different colors, different style. You'll notice that the frame on this is not in fact black. It's got some tone to it.
Yeah.
These inserts, which I think would be quite good if you happen to tip over in a parking lot or anything, are carbon and quite sturdy. And you look at the foot pegs, they look like aftermarket rear sets. Everything about this bike, it may not be exactly the part you would buy from the aftermarket, but when you look at it, so much of it already looks like someone else detailed it for you, and you haven't spent anything other than what came OE with the bike.
So who would you recommend this bike to?
Well, I think first of all, it's a modern sport bike, so it requires some experience and some rider training. So it's not a first bike,
no,
for sure. It's definitely for a more experienced rider, someone who not just has the ability, but the experience to utilize it and enjoy it, and also the restraint to make sure you hang on to your driver's license.
So overall, how would you sum up the experience today in terms of riding this bike?
It's a very sophisticated, well-polished, extremely fast sports bike. And if you're the kind of person who that sounds like a good idea to, you will not be disappointed.
Nice job. Thanks for coming down today.
It was fun.
Don't touch that remote. There's still plenty more experience still ahead. Next, during our visit to Newfoundland, we regroup in Clarenville. Portions of Motorcycle Experience are brought to you in part by Honda, BMW Motorrad, Closed captioning of this program is provided by Motovan.
Welcome back as Toyota Truck presents The Experience. I'm Dave Hatch, and it's time now for this week's Ultimate Ride. Today, Norm and I are wrapping up day 2 in our tour of Newfoundland in Clarenville.
During this season's Ultimate Ride, Norm and I have been touring Newfoundland, and And last week, we rode north out of St. John's to explore the Bonavista Highway, stopping in at Bonavista proper to visit a historic large-scale merchant operation called Ryan's Premises. Then from there, we rode about an hour south on Highway 235 to the sleepy fishing village of Somerville. This week, we wake up in the town of Clarenville, known as the hub of the East Coast, and it makes a great central jumping-off point for a motorcycle tour of the island, thanks to its proximity to Highway 1.
Well, Norm, it's the crack of dawn, day 3 here at the Clarenville Inn, and thought it might be a good opportunity right now to just discuss why we chose Clarenville to be the base camp for this particular ultimate ride.
Yeah, because we've decided to stay on the east side of the island and we came in at St. John, so we primarily have a certain amount of time that we can use. Clarenville seemed to be a good central point to be able to get at the different areas that we wanted to see while we were here. So obviously Bonavista Bay, down here is Placentia Bay, Trinity Bay, Conception Bay, peninsulas all over the place here. So it was like a good place to be able to get out, come back to one place, not have to be packing, unpacking, worry about different hotels. It's just a good taking off spot.
Yeah, and yesterday, taking off, man, yesterday was awesome. You know, we did that Bonavista Peninsula. We had a little bit of everything with Trinity and with Bonavista, and then the home run with the fishermen last night.
The Somerville special.
Yeah, that was just a perfect day. And I'd have to say, the roads, I'm gonna give the roads a 7 out of 10, because we hit a lot of choppy stuff and a lot of construction. You know, you can't predict that, but the scenery and the hospitality, home run, 10 out of 10.
Absolutely. I mean, I just love riding by the ocean like that with you know, the typical Newfoundland rocky coast and the waves crashing all over. And like you said, the hospitality has just been unbelievable. And you know, people talk about that a lot when they come to Newfoundland, and we've definitely been exposed to it and experienced it.
Yeah, it's true. It's all true. So today, the destination?
Well, we're going to head down Highway 1 here, down towards 80, and then 80 will take up the coast, up towards this great cove up here at the top. But that'll give us Trinity Bay on our left-hand side and riding the coast the whole day here, or the whole morning anyways, and then make our way over to the other side where Conception Bay is. So, you know, I think we'll get a good mix of two types of visuals today as we're riding.
Well, I'm looking forward to this one because we get Heart's Delight, Heart's Desire, and Heart's Content. Hopefully another ultimate ride ahead of us.
Let's get out there.
Next week, we're off to Heart's Content. Population 400. And according to the locals, at one time this fishing village was known worldwide because back in 1866, this was the landing site of the world's first transatlantic telegraph cable. Still ahead, we're off to the woods as Brian Hudgen digs in for round 4 in our 6-part Ultimate Challenge, while Aliki explores the learning curve out at the Speedway. Welcome back as Total Truck presents The Experience. I'm Dave Hatch, and it's time now for the learning curve. And this week, Aliki is checking out the Honda CBR 125 Challenge. This season on The Experience, Aliki's been exploring the various ways you can get into motorcycling. So far, she's explored typical street licensing courses, and more recently a beginner's course at an off-road riding facility. Then last week, Aliki found an even cooler way to catch the motorcycling bug at the racetrack, or more specifically, the Honda CBR 125 Challenge Road Racing Series. With small, lightweight bikes weighing roughly 114 kilograms and simple 4-stroke engines producing roughly 13 horsepower, turns out pretty much everyone's having a blast, competing in this safe and affordable form of racing. This group includes a pile of young teens, both males and females. And as you know, where there are teens, there are parents.
From a family perspective, what's your favorite experience?
One of the reasons we did start the racing, we talked it over, my wife and I discussed it, and Tony was 16 at the time, and the kids have been doing soccer, but there was no soccer for her anymore. And you know, kids that age, teenagers, they want to go and do their own thing, less things in common with their parents. So for me, it was primarily a life experience for her to learn lessons through the racing and an activity that we could go and do, and it was fantastic. Yes, there was the stress, yes, there was the worry, but she was racing with a great bunch of kids, a great setup. All the CBR kids, they meet in the Honda tent at the Nationals, they socialise, they go out and race hard on the track, but they come in and they'll all laugh and joke with each other about how well they've done. And for me and Tony, it was fantastic because we could go to the races together. It was an activity we could do together. We had something to talk about. She would discuss racing lines, how other riders were doing. The whole family thing is great, and that was one of the key reasons that we got into this as well.
Do you have a lot of friends in the CBR 125 Cup, parents of other racers?
We love meeting up with the parents of the other racers. They understand, right? So we're always, Mommy and Daddy are the main sponsors. So it's a different world than some of the other bigger sponsored riders. So yeah, we've a lot in common and we share a lot, and it's so fun meeting up with them at the end of all the racing around somebody's bonfire with a few beers in the night. So it's good.
So for any of the parents that are watching this TV show, do you have any advice for anyone that'd be interested in getting their children into racing?
I wouldn't be as afraid as maybe before when we were starting to think about it. Well, obviously we like bikes, so I know people who aren't maybe comfortable or familiar with bikes wouldn't necessarily, be just as comfortable letting their kids race. The CBR Cup is very, very well supported, and the marshals do a fantastic job. They're very well set up with marshals at every corner, and the medical care is outstanding. And the CBR Honda organisers do a great job in taking care of them, making sure they have all of the safety understanding. And so I would definitely highly recommend, if their kids want to try it. They've got race schools where they have the opportunity to rent a bike and go and try it for a couple of days.
Man, that looks like a terrific way to enjoy our sport and have fun with your kids at the same time. And speaking of fun, you may recall that a couple of years ago, Motorcycle Experience toured the north shore of the St. Lawrence from Kingston to Quebec City and visited more than a few forts and historic 1812 battlefield sites along the way. So in honor of the upcoming War of 1812 bicentennial this summer, we've put together a brand new Riders Club contest. The 1812 Riders Club contest to be exact. All you have to do to enter is visit the motorcycleexperience.ca website and join our email Riders Club, just like these folks did. If you're already a Motorcycle Experience Riders Club member, then just reconfirm your email address. And that's it. You've entered. On June 3rd, 15 days before the 200th anniversary of the start of the war, we'll pick our winner. This year, we're giving away a very exclusive MV Agusta prize pack full of all kinds of goodies, including a limited edition hardcover book and a full-face helmet. Good luck, everybody. Still ahead, Brian goes flat out to tackle challenge number 4. Stay with us. Portions of Motorcycle Experience are brought to you in part by Honda, BMW Motorrad. Welcome back as Toyota Truck presents The Experience. I'm Dave Hatch, and this season we've been covering a 6-part challenge designed to put my friend Brian Hudgens' riding skills to the ultimate test. In rounds 1 and 2, we tested his ability to ride a V-twin cruiser, both slow and fast, over a very loose surface. Then in round 3, we moved from the cruiser riding category to the dual sport mode, when we presented Brian with an adventure sport challenge that required the use of a GPS. The result of all this has been a 2-to-1 score for Brian. Then last week we went back to the woods and set things up for challenge number 4. Today, it's go time. So with the assistance of a multi-champion off-road expert, Blair Sharpless, Brian must now repair a flat tire in 10 minutes or less. Good luck, Brian.
All right, Brian, well, we might as well get started because I know as soon as you touch the bike with a tool, Dave's going to start that clock.
All right, here we go.
So we'll get the rear axle first.
Haven't heard it yet, have you?
You might want to position the wrench so you can stomp on it. That's a short wrench. So you may need to use your foot. Now, tire levers. You use your knees on the tire, so you drive right over here, so you drive the tire down in the well of the rim, because the way a rim's designed, if the bead of the tire isn't down in the well, you'll never pull this side off. So knees right there, to hold that in, 2 levers in here across, or wherever, across from you. Tuck the tube in. So I would work around from the valve like this, and you get the valve sitting right in the right spot as you go. Here, you probably can get up and stomp that and it'll go on. Just give it a stomp right on your lever and right there, and it should go right on. There you go, you're done. Put it in the bike.
Wow, nice try, guys. That was a valiant effort, but I gotta say, you missed it by 43 seconds. I'm so sorry you've lost the challenge.
Come on.
That was great, and I mean, you had some great advice. I mean, last week at the corduroy, this guy changed the tire in 1 minute 54 seconds, so you had the best in the country.
I did, and he gave me, actually learned a lot just with that 10 minutes or 10 minutes and 43 seconds, I guess it was.
That was excellent, but I'm afraid you're now 2 for 2 on the challenge as we go into the final round.
What's next?
Next, we're going to motocross.
Yes, finally.
Well, we'll see. Good job, guys. Let's put some air in that tire and get out of here.
Hope it holds it.
Well, I gotta say, he gave it a great try, and things are now really getting interesting. With the score currently tied 2 for Brian and 2 for me, next week we advance to challenge number 5. The crew and the motocross track known as Sandalee, just south of Ottawa, Ontario, are standing by. Well, that's it for this week's program, folks. We're all out of time. We leave you now with our roving reporter, Paul Connor. This week he's up in Bellefontaine, Ontario, and he's found the owner of a very nice RZ350. So until next week, keep your feet on the pegs and your right hand cranked. Bye for now.
Hey Dave, I got a really great 2-stroke here. Steve, tell us about your bike.
Yamaha 1989 RZ350. I bought it about 1.5 years ago. Original colors were all blue and blue on blue with gold, and I didn't like the traditional color in that, and I wanted it to be different. So I came up with this paint scheme, and I know a decal manufacturer, and he redid the decals for me to match, and it just turned out fantastic.
The paint is really good. What's your favorite part about riding this bike?
You know, they're peppy and small, and I've ridden 2-strokes all my life that it's just so much fun to ride. It's nimble and it's fast and it stops. It does everything right.
So you prefer a 2-stroke to a 4-stroke?
I do.
You used to race them, you were saying?
Yeah, in the early 80s, I raced production bikes, RD 350s, just before this generation. And then I went to full bore racing with TZ 250s for about 3 or 4 years. Just love 2-strokes, you know, it's my kind of thing.
What brings you to the Forks today?
A friend of mine lives close. We go out for Sunday rides all the time, and this is one of our spots we like to stop at, meet the people and have a chat, and it just so happens we're meeting you today.
Well, this is a really fine piece. Thanks for bringing it out today.
Thank you very much.